There are 3 states now that have new gun laws in effect. They take effect today in Indiana, Kansas, and Georgia, all of them expanding the number of places where a gun can be carried. Georgia gun owners can now take their firearms into bars, churches, and schools. Jerry Henry is the executive director of Georgia Carry. That is a nonprofit organization supporting the Second Amendment right to bear arms. He joins us from Atlanta this morning. Mr. Henry, thank you very much for being with us. I understand that you helped write the law. Why do you support it, and why is it important to take a gun inside a church?
Well, because there are dangerous people in church. Churches are private property, and as are bars, and those private property owners have the right to tell you whether you can or cannot carry a firearm on their property. They should not be treated any different. We have separation of church and state in this country, and the churches should be able to decide, which they can now.
Mr. Henry, I want to take you back to your statement. Churches, there are dangerous people in churches. Ministers would argue they're there to be saved. Has there been an outbreak of violence in churches across the country?
Well, over the last 10 years, there's been over 440 people killed in 660 instances in churches. So I would say yes.
Were they killed by guns?
They were killed by guns when people entered the church illegally and started shooting, mass shootings, just like they do in schools.
Now, according to the FBI, in 2012, handguns were the cause of nearly 6,400 murders. Rifles were used at about 300 murders, but fists caused fewer than 700. The reason most people feel the need to have a gun is that they are afraid of something or someone. Who are you afraid of?
I'm not afraid of anybody. I have a firearm.
Without that firearm, would you be afraid of anybody? And if so, who?
I would not be afraid of anybody particularly, but I would be very aware of where I go and when I go. Anywhere I go, I should be allowed, and I am under the Constitution, to protect myself and my family, and that's what we're fighting for.
What about that person that fears you because you have that firearm and they sit next to you in that restaurant, that bar, that school, or that church?
Well, sometimes when people exercise their God-given and constitutional rights, it makes other people uncomfortable, and maybe this is one of those times.
Well, what do you say to them?
If you want to be free, you have to have rights.
But they're free too. Do they not have a right to say that they don't want that gun in a church or a bar or a school?
They do have that right, and they have the right to get up and leave if they don't want to be there.
Mr. Henry, on average, in the U.S. this year, there has been a school shooting every week. Now you're talking about bringing a gun into a classroom. Why?
Well, now wait a minute. Every week there's been one?
On average this year, there has been a school shooting once a week in the U.S.
If that is from Every Guns USA, that is Every Guns wherever, Michael Bloomberg's group, that is a false statement. However, we are not advocating that you bring guns into school. This law does not allow you to bring guns into school. It allows the local school boards to determine if they want to arm their teachers or administrators to help protect their children.
Now, let me ask you this. Right now, handguns, correct?
Any gun. It's not limited to handguns.
So where does it stop? Are we talking about bringing an Uzi into the tabernacle?
If you have a license to carry a Uzi and that's what you want to do, then I say yes, you can do that. However, the tabernacle's not going to let you do it, so it's kind of a moot point.
Jerry Henry, Executive Director of Georgia Carry. He is one of the authors of the bill that just went into effect in Atlanta today. Mr. Henry, thank you for being with us this morning.